Alright, so I'm back with another solo Tempest attempt. Haven't done this in a while, so I decided to make another commentary video. And this one was a lot better than my first attempt at this, but I still died a few times, so still room for improvement, obviously. But I had a lot of really good pulls in this run and just all around clean playing. Some parts I can get unlucky on where it just there's not much I can do in certain situations and I die no matter what. But overall I think I played pretty solid, and yeah, I'll cover some of the parts that I think are worth mentioning. But right now it's not much going on here. Alright, so this is the first big pull, and I decided to try something different, and it worked out very well. So if you look at my health bar during this pull, I don't take basically any damage at all, which comes down to just dodging when I need to. So I'm going to group them all kind of towards this archer. And then just get as much damage in on the clump as possible. And that way I can maximize the damage from one flurry. And then it just comes down to dodging when I need to. So for this portal part, I do die a few times. And in my opinion, the first time I died in this, there wasn't much I could do. I guess I'll talk about it when we get there. But I've gotten pretty decent at this part, I would say. At least for the first elite that spawns here. A key thing to mention here is to use your riposte to riposte the elite and nothing else. That should be your primary focus with riposte. I almost had those guys clumped together, which would have been super helpful, but he flew away. But it's not a big deal, just takes a little bit of extra time. I got pretty lucky with the crawlers. They didn't aggro me until pretty later. So I was able to get 2 of these pylons down for pretty much for free. And then this guy's aggroed on me, so I'm playing a little bit more defensive. Because when they jump at you, they do a lot of damage. So I've kind of just realized to wait it out and play it more safe there. Alright, so this part, I die, but you'll see it's kind of insane how quickly I die. So I'm getting ready to group them up, and then I'm about ready to use Shockwave. And then I just get swarmed immediately. It was pretty unlucky timing. In hindsight, I think it would have been better just to use Flurry once they jumped at me, and then switch to Hammer once all the mobs are grouped already, instead of trying to preemptively use it. But honestly, it could have went both ways. I could have even survived that if I did it like maybe just 0.2 seconds earlier. That was a really good shockwave there. I stopped those guys from getting to me just in time. I think I die here again because I was stuck between a bunch of enemies. I did pretty well initially, but I was just stuck and I couldn't move. Yeah, I saw the heavy attack come out and I didn't have evade or riposte off cooldown, so I was just dead there. One thing that really sucks about this portal is that the crawlers keep respawning. So as you'll see, some of these crawlers are respawning. So it really doesn't make sense to just go around and kill everything, because by that point there's already going to be more enemies. Like you'll see that guy just spawned. So I think the strat is you want to get rid of most of them and then start kiting the last few. Wow, that was very close. But yeah, you want to kite the last few and then start working on the center portal area, the monolith, and just kind of wrap around the edge of it. And then when you get overwhelmed, you can kind of just kill them. Flurry is such a good sustain. I'm sure if you're watching my health, you'll see that when it seems like I'm about to die, if I just use one flurry on 2 enemies, I'm back to full health instantly. It is probably the best sustain in the game, and it's very, very underrated now that it has grit on it. So you can use it in faces of like big clumps and get away with it a lot of the times. So for this part, this is a very advanced tip for rapier players, but you can use evade on that that quick attack that he does. I don't know if I did it just there, but yeah. Using evade defensively as a dodge is very good to utilize. Alright, this is another tough pull, but I managed to get away with it despite getting pretty close to dying here. I was stuck there and I managed to get out. Alright, so a big key concept if you're using rapier is you want to play aggressively even when you think you might not need to play aggressively. And the reason for doing that is because you will gain stamina by using light attacks, and you will also gain health if you have leeching and leeching flurry. So as much as it might seem like you want to run away and use a potion, it's actually better, from what I've noticed, to just maybe reposition yourself, but stay within that fight. Because the more time you stay within a fight, the more health you'll get from leeching and more damage you'll do, which means the enemies will die quicker. So there's really no downside to staying within the fight, as long as you can obviously stay alive and maintain yourself, which is the hardest part. I believe I die at this this next upcoming clump after this tendril. There's a few mistakes I make. I can't remember what I did wrong, but I'll talk about it when we get there. So I love doing that, and it's all you do there is you riposte kind of preemptively and then evade right after, and you will not get hit by anything. It takes practice to learn that though. Yeah, that was unfortunate. I tried to get health off, but I didn't see that heavy attack coming out from that other guy, so I was killed by that. I decided to use a ward potion so I can have a little bit more sustainability. A lot of this build comes down to doing circles around the opponent, especially in clumps. And the reason for that is for two reasons. The first one is you'll do more damage to backstabs, especially if you have the rogue perk on your weapon. And the second reason is the enemies will have a harder time hitting you, and you'll have a better position on them. So it is worth noting that. Yeah, that's just unlucky. It does take a lot of practice and I guess just luck in general to make sure you can get that shockwave off. Because realistically, if you can get one shockwave on a big clump, the rest is pretty straightforward. You can just use flurry and then go into evade spam to riposte when you need to. But it's all about getting that first CC chain off with either shockwave or wrecking ball. At least when you use this build. My man's dodging. So for this next upcoming part, I die, and I die I think 3 times, which is really not good. Like I did pretty terrible on this part. I think ultimately the pull that I'm going for here is the correct pull, but it's really hard because my focus right now is trying to kill these musketmen. And the problem with that is I'll lose focus of the boss. So I can't really see what the boss is doing there. I still think this is the correct way to do it, but I just have to play perfectly. So I think I die here again. I tried to riposte, but I was late. And now I have to wait 10 seconds. But yeah, there's different ways to do this pull. For example, you could even use a ranged weapon just to get the boss secluded from the ads. But I like doing it this way. It's more fun, more challenging, and also it's ultimately faster if you can do it in one life, obviously, if you don't die. So I don't think I die now. That was a really optimal evade and dodge right there. It's hard to notice these types of things, especially if you're not familiar with the build. But a lot of the stuff I'm doing is as best as you can get. Because obviously I've done Tempest a lot, so I have that experience. But just in general with the rapier in this build, I've used this build for a long time. Like 1.5 years, I want to say. So I have a lot of experience with this build. And now we have the Spriggan, which I've said before is one of my favorite bosses to fight. And yeah, it's pretty simple. I almost did no hit. Hitless, but I think at the very end I got hit. So right there, that was me pressing evade too early. So if you ever use this build and you see yourself doing that double riposte, it basically just means you're pressing evade too early after riposte. So you need to delay that just a little bit more. And you'll see I'm using evade as a dodge, like just right there. And that allows me to get more damage off in the time that it would take me to do a dodge instead. And not to mention, evade also gives me a damage boost. So that is why I've started to use evade. Basically, like, you'll see I barely dodge in this fight, except when I really need to. It's mostly just evades. And that will keep my damage as high as possible. Yeah, right there, it was a little unlucky because I was stuck in animation, so I couldn't dodge in time. And that's why I got hit. Oh, got hit again. That was just bad gameplay. So I think the ending time for this run is about 42 minutes. You can probably check the time of this video to see that as well. And this is definitely faster than my previous attempts, but the fact that I made so many mistakes, I can easily get this down to 30 minutes-ish if I really got the best run possible. But, I mean, it's just a lot of luck involved because, as we saw with that last Spriggan boss with all those muskets, like, you just have to get lucky with some of those attack patterns, because otherwise you'll just get killed instantly. This part's pretty simple now. I used to struggle with this part a lot, but it's not too hard. All you have to do is focus one of these smaller priests, and then worry about the big priest, and let the other priest in the background there is just going to shoot, but the damage it's going to do to you won't really matter because you can sustain most of it by using Flurry. So you'll see I just drank a regen potion, and the reason I'm able to run immediately after that instead of getting rooted in place is because I have Purifying Toast on my earring, and that allows me to remove roots when I use it, so it makes it a little faster. Just a quick speedrunning tip if you plan on either doing this solo or even like M10s, it is something to note. You'll see the hitboxes are kind of weird on this boss. I really hope they change this the hitboxes, because if you aim kind of in the middle of his legs, you won't actually hit him. So I think AGS should probably consider fixing these hitboxes. But I've noticed it a lot where I'll be attacking his legs and the hits actually won't register. But overall, that's not too difficult of a fight. It obviously takes a ton of practice to actually learn his attacks, because the overhead swing will instantly kill you if you're running 5 con, which is what I'm doing. So you just have to be cautious of that.
Deeper still.
So we're just going to skip everything here, go straight to the door onto the first Isabella fight. Now, I have a lot of history fighting this boss specifically, and that is because she does a certain attack where she will kind of push her shoulder out and dodge back just a little bit, and it'll be a hitbox that is very, very hard to avoid. I'll try to point it out when I see it, but I've gotten used to her attacks, like right there, that was the one, and typically I'll avoid that attack because I actually realize how much time I have to punish between her attacks. And I think if you really are trying to master this fight, that's what you should try to realize, is how much time it takes her between attacks, and then kind of preemptively set yourself up so you don't get hit by that. Because that is the one thing that really can just kill you. The reason it didn't kill me before is because she was weakened from Skewer. And that's why I got away with it before. Alright, so we're going to go back to the Warhammer because we're going to have more enemies to fight. So the Warhammer is the best for clumping enemies. The Spear is the best for single target. At least in my opinion. This part is pretty difficult, and the reason it's so difficult is because you have two muskets shooting you at the same time. So if you get hit like that, you can see my health is so low, so I'm just praying to God that the muskets don't burn my health too quick there. But it just takes so much perfect play to make sure this fight goes smoothly. And as you can see, I'm running circles around this boss, and it just makes more sense to do that because you get a better position, you can get backstabs to do more damage. And yeah, it just makes it easier. So if you're using this build, just make sure to reposition yourself often. It's kind of an doesn't really seem intuitive to do that, but it's very, very much a necessity. Oh, this part, I was so stupid, I thought I killed him. So with the weapon I'm using, I apply a hex, so it does a DOT for like 2 seconds, and I thought that would kill it, and it did not. So I lost, I don't know, maybe like 15 seconds there. But it's whatever. Wasn't the perfect run anyways, so not a big deal. So this is the perfect combo for this guy. Wrecking Ball, and then Rend. You can probably just replay this part if you want to see it again, but the way I just played that enemy is the perfect combo, in my opinion. Alright, on to the second Isabella fight. I think this Isabella fight is the perfect fight I've ever done against this boss. So you'll see how perfect I play. It is... I'm actually astonished I played this well. I don't think I make any mistakes at all. And the smallest of mistakes will get you killed in this fight.
Egg on your knees for death! Egg on your knees for death!
Yeah, so there's that dash back again. And you can see I preemptively set myself up, so I was just outside of her hitbox range. So we don't get hit by the first part of it. And there it is again, and I was just outside of her hitbox range again, so I've kind of gotten used to what that range is, so I'm able to avoid it. And you can see I actually evaded that last hit, and there's a lot of small details in that fight that I just did that might make the fight seem easy, but it is like 1,000 runs of practice. Like, I've done Tempest, like, I want to say at least 1,000 runs. I looked at my Tempest materia, and I did kind of a rough estimate of it, and I'm pretty sure I've done this dungeon like 1,000 times, which is kind of disgusting. That is a lot of Tempest that I've done. But I do like this dungeon. I mean, to this day, I still enjoy running it, but you know, I feel like I've kind of plateaued in terms of how much I can improve on this dungeon. Because I really have mastered most of the aspects of this. There's still a few things in terms of soloing it that I could use some work on. Because when I say 1,000 runs, that's with like other people, but when I've soloed this, I want to say I've only soloed this like maybe 10 times. When I've actually, you know, tried to solo it. I got super greedy here. I should not have went for a Bolt Kick. So that is why the Rapier is so good, because you're able to just do whatever move you want and ability you want and get away with anything. But with the Spear, you have a lot of committal moves. So like Vault Kick is extremely committal, and Skewer is somewhat committal, and then Perforate used to be super committal, but I think they actually lowered the end lag on that move, so you can get away with it more often. Alright, now time for the Laser Boy. So the way you want to do this turret part when you're soloing it is you want to wait for that laser to almost go away and then jump in the turret. So you're going to take a little bit of damage there, but it'll give you a head start so you don't have the next part of his lasers come up. And then you want to drop the torch here so you can get inside of this next turret, and then make sure to kill him before he does the lasers, and then kill the tendril, and that just saves you some headache with that. I know I'm mentioning a lot here, but I wanted to get as much information out as possible, because I do know a lot about this dungeon. Obviously I said I did it like 1,000 times, so I feel like I have a lot of information to give. So for the people who care to watch this video all the way through, you definitely will learn something. So that might have been hard to see, but I actually was watching his lasers and watching for them to be about to end, and then I jumped in the turret after getting rid of the torch. But that is kind of like a higher level thing that's hard to see there. Alternatively, you can go behind the turret, drop the torch, and you'll be safe there as well.
Is all this a dream? If I open the box, is that the way to wake up? And now the dream is released. Only the darkness remains. And that shall be the final price the champion must pay.
The champion must pay. Alright, on to this priest. This is a pretty easy fight. Very straightforward. You're going to go into a perforate, into a evade to the back, and then get as much backstab damage as possible while he's rended. And then try to maintain a position behind him so you can get as much backstab damage as possible. That will take practice to learn, but the core concept there is to just make sure you're behind the enemy, especially if you have a rogue on your weapon. So you can see I stunned him first, and then I go behind the enemy, and that gives me more time to do backstab damage. I don't go for backstab damage here. I'm not sure why, but it doesn't really matter too much, I suppose. In mutations, though, obviously it is always better to be behind the enemy, because the tank's going to be there and you want to do more damage. But that's pretty obvious. So you can see I go for a riposte there, and quick tip here is you can actually bait these ads and rend the priest. So you're going to be doing more damage to the priest. You can see the priest was actually rended there, which means that I'm doing more damage to the priest, even though I didn't riposte the priest. I riposted one of those ads. So I'm going to be doing more damage to the priest. It doesn't really matter too much because the health of these guys aren't too insane. But like I said, in mutations, that does matter. Being able to rend that priest there is going to be a huge benefit for your entire team. Alright, this is another key combo. Perforate into Vault Kick to stun him. Then you're going to go behind him. And then riposte that. And then you kind of just use the rapier. You can swap weapons to get more rend with Perforate there. And then riposte for even more rend. And then you can see he has 3 stacks plus 1 of rend. So that would be, what, 29% plus 30%? Yeah. So 60% of rend you can get with this weapon combo with Spear Rapier. And that means you have Sun and Riposte on the weapon though, to get that 29%. A lot of people say this fight is pretty hard. In my opinion, this is easier than Isabella. The one thing you have to worry about, or I guess the 2 things you have to worry about, is the tail whip, and then the orb, obviously, and also the when he does that fan of arrows in kind of like a horizontal line right here. You need to worry about that. I actually should have died there. I'm not sure how I didn't. I guess I only got hit by a few of the arrows. The reason I didn't dodge is because I couldn't. I was stuck in animation and I didn't have evade or riposte available. And that's just kind of bad gameplay by me. I should have considered that better. But I am critical of myself when it comes to that. Alright, so instantly rend with Perforate, always the best idea. And then a double rend now with Riposte, so he has 60% rend on him right now. And then rebuff that rend with Perforate. And then I'm going to focus Orb here, get ready to Riposte because he's tail whipping. It's very important if you use this build to maximize the amount of rend you can do, especially if you have Perforate off cooldown. So you always want to be using Perforate to get that rend on bosses. And then Riposte will obviously give rend as well, but Perforate specifically is one ability to really try to utilize. If you didn't know, also for this part, wherever the ad spawns is going to be safe. So you can see this ad spawned in that top left corner, and you'll see for the next cycle it will be available. So right there, it is a free area. So you can theoretically just watch where those ads are spawning from, and then run to that location, and you'll be safe. I don't know how that missed, but I guess he just sucks. And so Orb's coming up, so I'm preemptively going there. I know the timing well enough where I can just run there when it's about to spawn. And then riposte that one. Here's another tip which might seem obvious to more advanced players, but you're going to be wanting to use Detonate or whatever ultimate ability you have whenever the boss or whatever enemy has as much rend as possible. And also ideally if you're playing in a group, you want to wait for an Oblivion to be down to use that Detonate. And that will maximize the amount of damage you can do. So I'm a bit late here, so I'm just going to riposte this ring. And that way I don't take any fire stacks or any damage. And then it's all about cleaning this up. I think there is going to be one more orb that spawns, but I'm not going to bother attacking it. Instead, I'm going to show the idea of riposting it. So basically what I'm watching is that outer ring to get close to the center, and then now. And then that kind of allows you to see when you need to riposte. So there's another method of doing the orb. You don't even have to kill it. And realistically, for the most damage, it might just be better to do that for all 3 orb phases. But I've noticed sometimes I'll get pretty unlucky with his attacks where he'll do the multi-hit arrow ability, and it will eat my riposte. And I'll still take the fire stack and still get stunned. So it is kind of a risk-reward factor there if you want to go for more damage. But I like the way I played it there. I think that's the strat.
And at long last, the fools shall know their true purpose.
That she would feast upon their souls.
That she would feast upon their souls.
Alright, on to this fight. Obviously, very fun fight. I love this fight. So, take note of how I position myself in this fight. The way that this AI works is that she's going to dodge back a lot on her abilities. So you want to make sure that she's positioned where your back is facing the red blood. And this will give you as much space as possible where you don't have to worry about her going into the blood. So you can see I'm constantly repositioning myself to get more backstab damage, and also make sure that she goes to the location that I want her to. So she's too far in the blood, so I'm going to bring her back just a little bit, and that'll give me some more wiggle room. So I have to step back, and the reason is I had a fire stack from her, and also I had no evade or riposte or flurry, so I really had to get away from that spin attack. But typically you can actually sustain through that if you use flurry early on in that spin. I misread where she would end up there, so that's why I missed there. Also, do note that, you know, I did say this before, but I've done this dungeon a lot of times, so what might seem like easy gameplay here, this is very difficult to do. Even when I play, I mean, I still have to focus quite a bit. So yeah, don't think this is easy. It is very much not easy, especially with 5con. This will take a ton of time if you do want to learn this fight. But I think the reward is worth it. I mean, she is probably the best designed boss in the game, in my opinion. So I'm not using a potion because of the fact that I know I can dodge her attacks, wait for flurry to be available, and then just flurry. And then boom, full health. So that is why I do not use potions typically, because realistically, just use a flurry. That's better than a potion. Another thing to note here is you want to make sure when you use Perforate on your spear that you're not using it in a punishable position. So you want to be using it immediately after she does an ability that has end lag, or during an ability where you can sustain through it. Alright, she's double rended, so I can do max damage right here. I also have to be careful about those meteors on the ground. As you can see, I'm kind of very cautious about that right now. Because if I get hit by one of those meteors, I'm dead. Typically I wouldn't fight in the blood there, but I knew I could kill her in time. So that's why I was fighting over there. And there is the fight and the dungeon completed. So yeah, I mean, what was this? 42 minutes? Not bad, I'd say. Lots of stuff I can still improve on, but overall I'm pretty happy with the way this run turned out. A lot of the mob clumps I felt were a lot smoother than my previous attempts, and yeah, overall I just played a little bit better. So I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully some of that information was helpful, and I will see you guys later.